Are you ready to take a new look at your future? A new look at the world around you? A new look at how learning is evolving? A new look at how culture can unite us? A new look at how tradition can inform the future? A new look at how different views can deepen our understanding? A new look at how innovation can solve problems in fresh ways? A new look at experiencing a world-leading education from anywhere? A new look at studying in a way that suits you? Because when we take a new look, we find new paths forward. So if you're ready for new,
take a new look at New Zealand education.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass with the theme of today, Digital Revolution for Education. And my name is Piyapa, KM Manager of the SEAMEO Secretariat. I'm very pleased to be your MC today. Firstly, may I introduce Dr. Krisachai Somsaman, Deputy Director for Administration and Communication of the SEAMEO Secretariat, who will be the moderator of the Q&A session. Dr. Krisachai, would you like to welcome our participants in YouTube Live and please tell us what is the special of the today event?
Good morning, Kun Piyapa. First of all, I would like to welcome all our participants of the second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass on Digital Revolution for Education today. I'm glad that we have very interesting speaker in our masterclass today. The subjects that we are about to learn together today are very near to my heart. Artificial intelligence is the key to the future, and we will learn today on how to use artificial intelligence in the autonomous underwater vehicle to inspect aquacultures. That's something I haven't seen in any AI learning programs. We will also learn about the development of interactive tools to make enjoyable learning experience. We will hear about immersive learning using virtual reality and also augmented reality to help you overcome the difficulty of science subject. I must say wow to all this. These are not easy to find from anywhere. Education New Zealand and SEAMEO collaboratively bring this learning to us, and all the speakers are with us here to answer our questions. So why miss this opportunity to enlighten our brain? You can send the speakers questions that you have in mind. We will provide you with the QR code and the link that you can send us the questions. So we can pick the questions, and our speaker could help answering this live in this masterclass. I believe that we will all have a great learning experience today. Thank you. Back to you, Kunpiapa. Or you still muted?
Thank you very much for the very brief introduction. Before we start the presentation from our experts, may I invite Dr. Ethel Agnes Pasco Valenzuela, Director of the SEAMEO Secretariat, for the welcome message and brief introduction of the special master class to our audience. Dr. Ethel, the floor is yours.
Mr. Ben Barros, Regional Director of Asia Education New Zealand, distinguished speakers, Professor Richard Green, Associate Professor Surangan Nanayakara, Associate Professor Dr. Dorothy DeWitt, and Dr. Theo Yong Chua, participants from Southeast Asian countries and even beyond. A very good morning to all. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic triggered a revolution in the way we live, work, and learn. Particularly, this pandemic has changed the educational landscape globally. We have witnessed that the pandemic has also provided opportunities in accelerating the improvement of using technologies and innovations for teaching and learning at all levels and in all educational communities. To learn the newest technological solutions and innovative strategies for improving teacher capacity, as well as developing future skills of our students and teachers. In the post-pandemic era, SEAMEO, together with the Education New Zealand, or ENZ, organized the first SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass under the theme Educational Technology and Digital Security in September 2021. The event was conducted successfully with approximately 10,000 participants who joined SEAMEO in the live broadcast and YouTube channels. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of New Zealand has been admitted as associate member country of SEAMEO since 1973. New Zealand has collaborated with the ministries of education in Southeast Asian countries and working with SEAMEO regional centers and the Secretariat, contributing to scholarships, teacher capacity development programs, and funding for special courses which have benefited Southeast Asian educators and students as well. This year, SEAMEO is delighted that Education New Zealand has collaborated with us again to organize the second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass with the theme Digital Revolution for Education. We hope that this webinar will open our eyes, form the newly innovative technologies such as understanding artificial intelligence or AI in education, augmented reality or AR, and virtual reality or VR. We will understand better how these technologies can effectively support and be applied in education, in teaching and learning. We would like to thank Education New Zealand, our co-sponsor and co-host, for this very valuable contribution to the region in terms of educational technologies, capacity building through this masterclass. We would also like to express our appreciation to the distinguished speakers for their great contribution and ideas to be shared to our teachers and learners today. From New Zealand, we have Professor Richard Green, Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering, University of Canterbury, and co-chairs the New Zealand AI Researchers Association. From New Zealand and Singapore, we have Associate Professor Suranga Nanayakara, Director of Augmented Human Lab, School of Computing, National University of Singapore, and Honorary Professor of Auckland Bioengineering Institute at the University of Auckland, New Zealand. From Malaysia, we have Associate Professor Dorothy DeWitt, Senior Lecturer, Department of Curriculum and Instructional Technology, Faculty of Education of the University Malaya. From Singapore, Dr. Theo Yong Chua, Senior Lecturer and Assistant Head. He is also the leader of Natural Sciences and Science Education at the National Institute of Education. Last but not least, we would like to thank the participants who participated and who pre-registered in this second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass and joined our SEAMEO YouTube channel today. We hope that all of you will benefit from this timely masterclass on digital revolution for education. I am sure we will learn a lot of insights, innovation from our experts today. Thank you very much and enjoy your masterclass.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ethel, for the very warm welcome message. And this second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass cannot be happen without the partnership and strong support from the Education New Zealand or ENZ. May I invite Mr. Ben Boros, the Regional Director of Asia, Education New Zealand, to give a welcome message. Sir, may I welcome you on the virtual stage.
Kia ora, kun pia pa. Kia ora katoa. Welcome everybody. Thank you to Dr. Ethel for her kind opening remarks just now, as well as the ongoing partnership and friendship with your wider team at SEAMEO. Thank you very much for the opportunity to join today's event and to speak on behalf of Education New Zealand. I'm zooming in all the way from Singapore, so not too far from all of our guests and attendees today. As Dr. Ethel has already mentioned, I'd like to also extend a special thank you to Professor Richard Green and Associate Professor Suranga Nanayakara, the two subject experts from New Zealand who are presenting as part of today's masterclass, along with their colleagues Dorothy DeWitt and Theo Yong Chua from Malaysia and Singapore, respectively. Thank you very much for your kind support towards this Education New Zealand initiative that we are delivering alongside SEAMEO. I should also mention a huge thank you to all of the attendees who are streaming in today to hear from our panel of experts. So thank you very much for your genuine interest in what today's session is all about and for giving up your time today. That's very much appreciated. As Dr. Ethel mentioned, New Zealand has been a proud associate member country of SEAMEO since 1973. And while our institutions and the Ministry of Education in New Zealand have worked with SEAMEO in the past, today does mark our second masterclass series. So it's certainly great and a proud moment for us to continue our collaborations. So for those of you who aren't aware, Education New Zealand is our government agency responsible for international education. That's obviously that job has obviously proved to be a little bit more challenging in the past couple of years during the pandemic. But prior to COVID, we had approximately 130,000 international students in New Zealand, a large number of which were from Southeast Asia and learning both within our primary and secondary schools before transitioning on to higher education. And we also have a large number of partnerships, institutional and government partnerships across the region. So we're very excited about continuing those collaborations moving forward. But more relevant to today's discussion is a huge part of the attraction to New Zealand has been our world-class teaching and learning environment, particularly at the school level. And for the past few years, we've been ranked by the Economist Intelligence Unit as the world's top English-speaking country for preparing our students for the future. And within that future index, New Zealand was one of only 6 countries to receive a perfect mark for the importance that we place on teaching 21st century skills within our national education strategy. This includes the teaching of soft skills in order for our students to become critical, creative, and independent learners. But also our use of digital technology in the classroom is also widely recognised and certainly remains a huge focus within our school curriculum and tertiary curriculum, which you'll hear about from our 2 speakers very shortly, who are far more knowledgeable in this space than I am. So I won't take up too much of your time before we get on to the experts. But once again, on behalf of ENZ, a huge thanks to SEAMEO for organising this masterclass, as well as our speakers who will be delivering the sessions. To all of the attendees, thank you again for your interest in joining today, and I'm sure you'll all learn a lot in the next couple of hours. So please do enjoy the session. Kia ora.
Thank you very much for the very welcome remarks. And in this learning event, before we start with the first speaker, may I inform the participants that you can send the questions and reflection by using the Q&A form, which our IT team already posted on the description box and on the chat box of the YouTube. You can click at the link and select the speaker for addressing your questions in English language. So you can see here our IT team already shown on the screen. And without further ado, it is our pleasure to invite the first speaker from New Zealand, Professor Richard Green, Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering, University of Canterbury, and co-chairs of the New Zealand AI Researchers Association. With his expertise in AI and machine learning, his presentation topic of this morning is AI is revolutionizing sustainability, food and biosecurity. Please welcome Professor Richard Green on the floor. Dr. Please.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. It's kia ora. It's great to have so many people here being a part of this. And I have a very strong interest in AI education, as I know almost everyone watching is strongly invested in education. So I wanted to talk about some of the research that inspires us to have a lot of really interesting courses. So I thought we'd start talking about the research first that we're doing. And as you know, universities are research-informed teaching. So all the people who are teaching AI courses at university are also doing research in it. So on the screen here, you see an underwater drone autonomously wandering along all by itself, no human controlling it, scanning mussels growing on ropes and recognizing how healthy they are, their size, the biofouling organisms growing on them and so on. So yeah, so it's a lot of fun developing these kind of AI applications. So first of all, just sort of thinking about what is really going to be impacting our sustainability, our food security and biosecurity. And it's really the extent to which we're automating so many manual labor tasks. So it's really clear that within our lifetime, we're going to see most manual labor tasks being able to be automated quite easily with the increasing ability of AI algorithms and processing and sensors and so on. Now, I'm often questioned by reporters who say, well, with all these projects you're doing, are you going to increase unemployment? And I always refer them to, in the 1800s, 80% of the US labor force worked on farms. Like everybody were, so many people were not in the cities, but on the land. And now we go forward, a couple of hundred years, and it's only 2%. So theoretically, we should all be unemployed, but we're not. So clearly, society adapts and changes as we automate things with AI rather than just removing jobs. So one of the big breakthroughs in AI has been computer vision, recognizing objects and tracking their motion and so on. And it's so important to our brain and our cognitive processes that 50% of our cerebral cortex is just for vision. So clearly, even in our own cognitive computation, this is really important. Now, the biggest breakthrough we've had in AI in the recent last 10 years or so has been something called deep learning. And so that's like artificial neural networks that are hundreds of layers deep, and that's why they call it deep learning, where we've learned how to have architectures of them and train them to recognize objects. And they do a much better job than what we had before deep learning, but not perfect. As you can see, can you see my mouse moving, by the way? Yes, no?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay. As you can see, that is not a dog, it's a cat. So sometimes it gets it wrong. But then again, when we look at our cognitive abilities, it's interesting how we would compare them. For example, if we look at human imaging of just the eye, we've got this fovea part in the middle of the eye consisting of a bit like a 6.5 megapixel color camera that's got a super zoom lens. It's only like a few degrees lens angle. And then we've got this really wide angle 100 megapixel black and white camera that almost goes like 180 degrees like a fisheye camera. And all this is running in real time, being processed by our thousands of billions of neurons in parallel. So we're doing a very good job in AI and computer vision, all this autonomous. We're just starting to scratch the surface, where computers are still quite dumb and quite blind when it comes to doing all the possible human tasks that we can do today. And when we look at something like this and we know they're not moving, but they look as though they're rotating, we know that we have a few software bugs too in our cognitive processes. So it's not like we're working 100% perfectly. We're just so far ahead of where computers are at the moment. One of the big breakthroughs has been processing power as well. I thought I'd play with the Raspberry Pi, that picture I showed you before where it recognized a cat as a dog was done. I did that with a Raspberry Pi, and just without anything, a cheap Raspberry Pi ran at about 0.3 frames per second. So, like really slow. And just by plugging in $100 neural network accelerator into the Raspberry Pi, I got this running at 30 frames per second. So that means a camera moving around your room or outside and recognizing all the objects it can see at 30 frames per second. So it's astounding the power of processing, the cost of processing, the improvement of cameras and the improvement of AI algorithms that are really revolutionizing our world. One area that we see coming up is self-driving cars. And there's all this hype, as there has always been about AI, that cars will be autonomous and driving themselves all around any year now. What that would mean is you don't even need a steering wheel to go along that narrow country lane with no lines, no lines marked on the road. So there's a whole lot of situations, heavy snow, heavy rain, that there is no way that our current cars, no matter how well they operate autonomously on highways, that could actually work without a steering wheel. There'd still be a time where we need a human to take over. So we're still a way off, but not too far. So we're sort of predicting 2032 to 47 by one of the leading world experts. So, we're slowly getting there. But what I wanted to talk to you today about are some really good examples of where we are really making a difference with enabling automation to accelerate sustainability and food security and biosecurity. So I'll just go, there's a snapshot of some of the things we're doing, and I'll just go in through and talk to them now. So one of the areas is forest management. So this is our third biggest export industry in New Zealand, is wood, timber. And we're using collaborative swarms of drones or UAVs. And for this, we need a lot of AI and a lot of very good quality sensors to see depth and so on. And it is working really well. Here's an example of it working so well. So this drone is operating entirely autonomously, and its job is to prune branches on trees. And as you can see, it's running around. Of course, this is research code running on it. So in the background, you'll see somebody walking along with an emergency, his finger over an emergency stop button, ready to stop it in case it goes crazy. Yeah, we haven't had any incidents yet, but it's just all health and safety. And it's interesting to do this. We have to have a very accurate map of the tree, of where the branches are, and so on. So that takes a whole lot of AI technology to map the environment. So we need the deep learning to actually recognize what is a tree and what is a ground. And then from that, we can use AI to do some very high quality surface reconstruction. We're doing in other areas, like we worry about food scarcity, and the more we can automate areas of food production, especially in areas of the world where there's huge labor shortages, then the better we can achieve this. And so, for example, on grapevines, we're looking at this with sub-millimeter accuracy and doing very accurate models of vines and trees and orchards and so on. A problem we have in New Zealand is we have a lot of pasture, and pine trees grow like weeds, and their seeds blow in the wind, and they grow on farmers' pastures and so on. So now we've developed drones, the AI behind the drone, so this is just the off-the-shelf drone, but the smarts are in the software, so it's the AI telling the drone where all the wilding pines are from satellite imagery, and then the drone just automatically going and spraying each one. Of course, when it gets to a pine tree, it has to know exactly where it is within centimeters to deliver the spray. Other areas we're working on to look after the environment is in New Zealand, Scott Basin, Antarctica. There's a huge colony of seals right next to the base, and they've just been given, for the first time since it was done decades ago, a huge investment to rebuild the space. And they're very concerned of how much this will impact and annoy the seal colony. So this is just looking at satellite photos, but they don't give enough information for us. So we've got 187 megapixel cameras that we're looking at the seals and monitoring them so that we can see if they're being disturbed. And if there's some really bad noises, then we can stop it and make sure that we're not disturbing the seals too much. So we're doing a lot of work to care about the environment and the ecology around us. Another problem we have in New Zealand is we have no natural four-legged like animal predators in New Zealand. Before humans arrived, it was just birds, to the extent that we have a lot of birds that just live on the ground. But what's destroying a lot of our bird life are predators like possums and stoats and weasels and rats and wildcats and so on. And so we need to detect where they are in order to remove them. And one of the things we discovered when we tried to detect them is we turned on an infrared light at night and they ran away. And we discovered that possums don't like infrared light. So we had to use very low resolution thermal images, so low that we couldn't really see the shape of it. Like you see that fuzzy little shape there and you think, is that a possum or a rat or a cat? But by looking at the way they move, we were able to combine that with the shape information using AI to actually determine what we're looking at. And so it was a really good use of AI, not just looking at the shapes of things, but looking at the motion of things. Another area where we are helping out is in forensic science. You'll see all the TV shows of blood spatter analysis and how did this person die and so on. Was it a knife or whatever? And the problem is that when the experts testify, they aren't 100% sure. And sometimes one expert will contradict another expert because it's so subjective. So we're analysing these blood spatter patterns with deep learning and making really good progress, even by part of a pattern, to determine what happened in the crime scene, which is really helpful because people it can terribly affect people's lives when they weren't even part of the scene. So it's been really, really useful research. Another thing when we talk about food security and biosecurity is scanning grapevines. So this was one of our early ones about 8 years ago. Now we have a much smaller robot that goes along and has a whole bunch of cameras and scans grapevines and builds really accurate 3D models of the vines, and then tells a robot where to cut, and then the robot arm goes and cuts all the vines. And we've been making very good progress over this in recent years, using some really advanced deep learning approaches that are working way better than even stereo cameras, which is what we've traditionally used to find accurate depth values. But this is a problem in New Zealand because we do have a big labour shortage here, because we have to hand prune all our vines. And so with 90 million vines, you know, this is a lot of labour, and New Zealand is only 0.5% of the whole world production. So even in France, they have problems getting enough labour to hand prune the vines. So it's certainly not just a New Zealand problem. And we are making really good progress on this. It's interesting the extent to which you need to use AI. It feels like 10 times the amount of more code in AI when you're trying to do an actual labour task than just scanning an environment and understanding it from scanning. So it's so much more complex. Your scanning has to be absolutely perfect, because when we're doing things, think of any tools you're doing, whether you're just using a knife and fork to eat or chopsticks or anything, you're using really advanced movement skills and experience, and you're interacting with your environment in a very precise way. But that means you have to have a very accurate model of the environment. And that's what we're discovering when we're trying to use AI to do this, is just how accurate our model has to be of the environment. Similarly, scanning for trees, we thought, wouldn't it be brilliant just to have drones fly over all the power lines? And then we realised the New Zealand government would be most unhappy with drones hitting people's heads on footpaths. And so then we discovered that there are trucks who drive around every week. They have rubbish trucks and all sorts of vehicles that drive around. And we're just putting sensor packages on the roof. The driver doesn't even know it's there. When they get back to base every day, the Wi-Fi dumps it down and it does an automatic analysis. So this is good for knowing when you need to keep trees away from power lines, for recognising biosecurity incursions. So there could be some trees around some suburbs of a big city near a port, and something bad has come into the country, and we want to know straight away so we can eradicate it. So very, very useful use of AI for this. Another project we're doing with Singapore, a huge deep learning project, is recognising all the trees, recognising their shape really accurately, so we can understand how the shade from tree will help people's well-being by reducing temperature, affecting wind flow, humidity, and so on. So it also has a big impact on everyone's well-being, how well we can predict and model trees and the future as well. Another area I mentioned just on the first slide was autonomous underwater drones. So as well as using autonomous aerial drones doing things and autonomous robots running around vineyards and orchards and so on, we're also doing a lot of work underwater, because New Zealand has one of the widest shallow shelves, deep sea, shallow shelves off the coast compared to our land area than anywhere in the world. And that means a lot of potential farming area. And the government's thinking of how they can ramp up to thousands of hectares of mussel farms up to 10K off the coast. So to do this, we need a significant amount of automation. Otherwise, it just becomes too expensive. So we're doing a lot of work of automatically surveying mussel farms and looking for holes in salmon nets and looking for biosecurity incursions of biofouling organisms on wharf pylons and so on. And to do this, we've been doing some great simulations with the Unreal Engine because we need hyper-realism to even see how light reflects off plankton and so on. And we've got it working so well that every line that runs in the simulated underwater drone runs line for line in the real underwater drone. So that means we can do really accelerated development. But of course, underwater, there's problems where the water can get a bit murky, so we need to be really close to recognize the biofouling organisms. We need to be like 0.1 millimeter accuracy, and this has been really challenging and really interesting projects that we've actually managed to solve. The scallop beds at the moment, they just completely destroy the seabed, just dragging nets along it. And so we're working on something to recognize these scallops, which cover themselves with sand to try and hide, so you can just see their mouths, and using deep learning to see them and recognize them and to just suck the right size ones off the seabed without disturbing anything else. So just as a final wrap up, getting to the end of my talk now, I just want to mention that, as you said earlier, I'm a co-chair of the Artificial Research Association. So these are all the people that are delivering these AI courses in New Zealand. And we're all supporting each other's research and so on. And it's been a really great collection of people. We do a lot of fun stuff. As you can see, we also play with a lot of toys because it's also about the fun of doing AI research. So this is all 8 New Zealand universities. We have government-funded Crown Research Institutes that work closely with industry, as a lot of countries do. And then there's private organisations and even a lot of researchers in industry that are working for industry but still doing research and publishing it. So just so you're aware, there's a really wide range of AI courses across all the New Zealand universities. So if you're interested in AI, we've got a really good depth across New Zealand. I know I'm from Canterbury, but I'm also here to talk about all the other universities as the chair of the co-chair of the AI Researchers Association. And and so just to wrap it up with leaving you with a thought. So labour shortages and quality, accuracy, safety are the biggest drivers for so many of these applications. So based on this accelerated capability, I often wonder how long until all human manual labour tasks can be automated. My feeling is we're probably about 20 years away, but then I hate making predictions because every prediction anyone's ever made about AI has been wrong. But yeah, that's just my feeling on the rate of progress we're making with the brilliant algorithms that we're improving, the quality of the cameras, the power of the processors, and the really good group of people we have working in AI. And it's amazing how many jobs are out there in this whole area of AI now. It's just so rapidly growing. Every day I'll have another industry person contact me and ask if I've got any students who they can employ with a background in AI and deep learning and machine learning and so on. Yeah, so thank you very much. It was really enjoyed the opportunity to talk to you, and and all the best for where you're going in the future. And I'm hoping that you also, I know that you also have an interest in AI and some of your teaching in the schools that you're teaching in. So thank you very much. Right, okay, any questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Green, for the very informative presentation. And when I look at the Q&A form, there are quite many participants who are addressing the question to you. We received about 31 questions. So anyway, I think that for moderating the question and answer, may I invite Dr. Glishachai Somsamart to moderate the question. Dr. Monha, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kun Piyapa. We have received a lot of compliments
Oh, thank you.
Good subject. Welcome to about more than half a compliment. There are
Thank
some
you.
questions that come in a common area that they would like to ask. So
Yes.
can we have the presentation of the questions? Okay, well, the first issue is we hear about a lot of benefit of the AI, but well, we are also concerned about the threat, about how the criminal might use the AI for other purposes. So, well, what do you think about that? The autonomous underwater vehicle could become a threat to humanity and nature?
Well, that's a very good question. In terms of criminal use of technology, we'll never stop that. I mean, for thousands of years, people have found ways to turn technology into weapons and so on. So as you've noticed, I don't do any military research, but everything that I'm doing could easily be weaponized. However, there are some things that we're very concerned about, like, for example, underwater communications. We tend to use, if we cut that umbilical cord, that tether to the drone, we would communicate via blue light, which transmits a long way underwater. And we have to be very careful using acoustics because that can upset a lot of the mammals under the water. So we do care about nature and minimizing our incursion and our on nature.
Wow, that's great. So the AI community is already think about what would happen and how to prevent the misuses of the AI that could happen. Well, also we got a lot of questions since this is probably a lot of our participants are new to AI and they haven't touched AI in the school yet. So they're asking, what do you recommend for students and teachers alike who are about to learning the basic of AI? This is a question from J.R. Diola from SEAMEO Business Administration Technology from Thailand.
Yes, that's a very good question because like a lot of technology, there's a lot of foundational work that you need to do before you start really using it. Of course, there's a lot of simple things you can use online and simple tools to put things together. But to really get into it, I would say, and AI sort of starts in philosophy, where philosophers come up with brilliant ideas. So if you love coming up with brilliant ideas for technology that doesn't exist yet, philosophy is a good way to go. And I'd say, look there. If you really want to get into exploring AI, then I would say get computer programming, computer science. I would say take that pathway, and then any courses you can do in AI, machine learning, those sort of courses, I would say aim for those. I apologize if I didn't quite answer that question.
Well, I think you answered it. It's very clear because to understand AI, you might need to go back to the philosophical issue in order to understand it before starting implementing it, right? So, well, another question that can follow up from this: what year of the students? What are the age of the student that you think should be proper to start learning computer programming?
What age should students start learning computer programming? Wow, that's a very good question. Well, in many countries of the world, the governments have started them from the very first year of school. They call it computational thinking or coding for kids. There's a whole lot of different names for it. So like there's one that Professor Tim Bell has got books in almost every language of the world called Computer Science Unplugged. So it's how you do programming without even using computers. So very clever approach. So there is no minimal age. There's just ways of teaching the concept of programming to young children that is different to just sitting down and cutting code as an older age group.
Certainly. I love that book, The Computer Science Unplugged. I used that one earlier.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a
You're
very
welcome.
clear answer for all the questions that we have.
Thank
once again, thank you. Back to you, Khun Piyapha.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very wonderful session. And for the second speaker is from Malaysia. Please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Dorothy Dewitt, Senior Lecturer from the Department of Curriculum and Instructional Technology, Faculty of Education, University Malaya. She has won awards in teaching innovations, including the Best Immersive Learning Showcase at ILRN 2020. Her presentation topic is Virtual Reality for Education, Sustainable Solutions for Immersive Learning. For the participants who would like to address the question or reflection to Dr. Dorothy Dewitt, please scan the QR code here, which our IT team already posted, and also the link in the description box and in the YouTube chat box. All right, Dr. Dewitt, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dorothy, and you just saw me using virtual reality, HTC Vive, which we got for our faculty for the courses that we are offering in curriculum and instructional technology. This is tethered virtual reality, a headset which you can use to explore immersive environments. Virtual reality for education, sustainable solutions for immersive learning. I'll be covering the definitions, looking at the devices that you can use and the types of virtual reality environments and some sustainable solutions that you may try to use in your classrooms, as well as safety issues. So what is virtual reality? It gives you a very immersive solution, and normally we see it as the device that you see on the display here. It does allow you to be very immersive and experience a very emotional experience as you go through things like a roller coaster ride, and you can travel to different places. So that's the advantage of virtual reality. It has been used by gamers, ex-gamers who are exercising with it, as well as in the metaverse, the social environments where you can collaborate and communicate online. But it has a lot of potential as it can bring you to different locations and provide you a very immersive experience. So in gaming, you're out gaming and you're fighting, perhaps shooting people, and you can be transported to different locations in and out of this world into the human body or microscopic level and many other things. So there's a lot of potential with virtual reality. But what is virtual reality that gives you such an immersive experience? It's computer generated. It's a simulation. There is interaction at real time, but in an artificial location. You are not in the real world. It is synchronously moving with you. You are interacting synchronously. And these reactions and motions that you have creates the illusion, as you experience the virtual world, of you being inside another world. So VR is actually a computer-generated simulation where the interactivity happens because of real-time interactions detected by the devices. So it gives rise to an emotional or a perceptual response. So you feel happy, you feel fear, but it is an illusion of the immersion in the virtual environment. So there are different types of virtual reality. INSANETI considers low immersive virtual environments like in SimCity, Second Life, and others. Also see a lot of low immersive virtual environments like Minecraft, which are actually becoming more immersive, highly immersive, by allowing virtual reality to also be used, an option to use virtual reality in these virtual environments. So from a low immersive virtual environments, we're making it highly immersive. I'm going to carry on and show you how a highly immersive environment can actually make you experience it. So this is one of my students using an Oculus Go, and you can see from her reaction how realistic it feels. She's viewing a roller coaster. Let's look at the devices, tethered devices. These are headsets which contain a display, and yet they are connected through wires to a personal computer. So there are trackers on the headset, and you also use a hand controller that can track your position. So you're attached to a PC, and the PC, the personal computer, allows the processing power of the virtual reality to give you a better fidelity, high quality interactions. And this can be in a cave. This is in a cave, which is an automatic virtual environment. So interactions within that environment are processed in the computer, and I'll have you have a look at the fidelity which we can view on the computer. So this was a friend of mine when I was at Macquarie University. So this is not University layer. We haven't got our cave set up completely yet. So the view on the computer as we interact real time on Google Earth.
Can you see a lecturer there?
There are also untethered headsets, no connection to the computers, but some of these, like the standalone virtual reality headsets, Oculus Go, Google Daydream, old versions, and the Oculus Quest 2, they have their own computers attached, okay, which provides the processing power. On the other hand, you could be using a mobile VR, a mobile device for display in a VR cardboard. So these are more sustainable devices because these are much cheaper. Okay, a VR box doesn't cost much. A cardboard can even cost as much as low as 5 ringgit Malaysia. So it's only about $2, $2 US dollars perhaps. Okay, so and you can also have the option of making your own cardboard viewers. What you need is the lens. That's the most important thing, the lens. The better quality lenses cost a bit more, and you can have a magnetic controller here actually as your device. So what is more important and more expensive is the mobile phone. A mobile phone which is VR compatible, meaning that it has a gyroscope and it can move. All right, most newer phones and those that are a little bit more expensive are VR compatible. Cheaper ones may not have a gyroscope. So you have to check out your mobile phone. If it is VR compatible, you can put it in a box like this and view it. So the variety, so this was when we were looking at to purchase a few of these VR boxes. You have from 29 ringgit Malaysia right up to 98 ringgit Malaysia. The pricing depends on the quality of the lenses, the point of view, and some of these come with Bluetooth controllers. So that's what influences the price. So you need to still insert your own mobile device. So once you have the device, what do you view? So these are a few VR applications that I'm going to talk about soon, right? And many of these are desktop VR, which means you can also view it on the VR. There's some controversy about this. Some people say that it is desktop VR is not virtual reality. Okay, but there are options to use it on your mobile device and make it virtual reality. On the other hand, wearable VR are things which are interactive and more immersive. These are the hives. So let's look at what Oculus has, a scary Oculus app. And this is you can't view it in virtual reality, but this is just a video. It's a 360 video, which I obtained online, right? But in the actual VR environment, you get to hear the sounds, to feel the scary, and it's all dark, by the way. There's nothing wrong with your computer because this is at night, and it's a horror movie.
We should be friends forever.
To sustainable solutions. So 360 videos. 360 videos, Google tours and other tours, and mobile VR. We'll have a look at this. 360 videos on YouTube. This is a sustainable solution because on YouTube you can access so many videos which are 360 videos, like in Oculus apps, Nature 360. You don't need the Oculus app, just YouTube. National Geographic, you can access many different environments. Okay, other organizations have been doing lots of VR environments, and BBC, British Broadcasting Company, and I love this, spacewalk. Let's go to outer space.
EV2, we're 1 minute from egress. Time for last checks. Take a look at your gloves for us. Make sure there are no tears.
Let's do a spacewalk.
Okay, Houston has visual contact on the helmet cam. Your heart rate and oxygen levels are on your chest if you want to check, EV2. Readings look fine, okay? Test run. Let's see you secure your tether. Grab hold of that clip. Fix it onto the yellow handrail. Okay, that's great, EV2. Space Station Command, Houston here. We are ready to open the airlock.
Ready?
Copy that, Houston. Airlock hatch is opening.
EV2, your toolbox is attached to your waist belt. We are ready for you to move outside.
That's my waist belt.
Grab hold of the yellow handle. Pull yourself up.
Let's grab hold of the handle and we're out.
Give us a wave, EV2. We're all looking up at you.
Oh dear. This is
6 years of training was worth it for this, right?
spacewalk.
Take it nice and easy. We want to keep your heart rate steady. Anything under 80 beats per minute is great.
This is fantastic.
EV2, readings down here are optimal. This is going to be a walk in the park for you.
Virtual reality brings you to different locations. We have in Malaysia real estate being sold on virtual reality, using virtual reality. Okay, and there are lots of virtual tours, museums, and so on. So let me bring you on a Google tour and show you my university. This is the Chancellery building on the right as you tour in University Malaya from the KL gate. I'm going to bring you around University Malaya, have a look at how we move around, and you can do it on Street View. See the little man here? Make sure when you're touring, okay, you click the little gentleman there, the little man, and you have Street View, and you can move around KL Gate. Yeah. Using Street View, I can actually go on the road and maneuver, explore the Smithsonian National Museum, Museum of Natural History. So this is the main entrance, and we could explore it and we could move around in the virtual environment. We could go into the museum. Let's go to Rotunda North, okay, and look at the mammoth that's a permanent exhibit here. I could go into the Sand Ocean Hall. Where does it live? And at the same time, I could view it in VR. If I'm using a virtual reality device, yes, we can view it in VR. So it is really an immersive experience, and it really feels as if we're there in the Smithsonian Museum. So I can look up at the ceiling, look around, and I'm really there. Let's move on, okay? And we could go on into, we could go to the other rooms if they are available. Let's say the Mammal Hall, right? So I have the Smithsonian gives me the option to look at the overall view so that I'm not lost, and I am in this museum. Look out for virtual tours, okay, which many museums are already using nowadays. So Smithsonian is one of them. There's so much that you can also explore on Google Earth. The website is there. And you have like the Voyager, under Voyager, you have ready-made tours. For example, in this case, where the sea level rises and the fate of coastal cities. But you can also search for your favorite place and explore on Google Earth. So that's what I did. I searched for Manila. Okay, I wanted to tour Manila, and I picked Star City as one of the attractions. I think it's an attraction. So I went on Street View on Vicente Soto Street, okay, and walked along the street and discovered that there is also a convention center there. So those are things that you can do, and let your students explore as well. Places, new places, anywhere on Google Earth. Then I'm going to go to show you some mobile VR. So there are 360 videos that make use of VR. For example, the digestive system. You can view it in 360 on the desktop, on a mobile device, on VR. And there's one that I like to use with my students. There's this app called In Mind. There's also In Cell. So In Mind, it goes into the mind and shows you the synapses. So it's actually a gamification software where you use your eyes to interact. You don't need to touch any buttons, but when your eye goes over the hot spots, you get to go on, proceed on the next event. So it's a game, actually. It's a fast-moving game on shooting down rogue cells in the synapses. So on your mobile device, there are many free virtual reality apps that you can use. Go to Google Play Store if you have an Android, the Apple App Store if yours is an Apple device, okay, and you may need to download the Cardboard app, okay. So there are lots of roller coaster rides if you'd like to try, okay, download, or you can sometimes have an option to stream it using, you don't have to download the app, but you stream it, okay. Or I like Within, okay, is cinematic VR, so VR for viewing movies nowadays, but the short movies only. So look at Clouds Over Sidra. This was one of the first few VR movies that was produced. The app is Within, and there are many in there. Okay, now it is not all rosy, okay, using the VR apps. Be careful about hygiene, sharing the device, because you have it over your face now. With COVID, we are very, very aware. So there is a mask which we use with our students. Put on the mask first, and then you can start using the device, and especially when you're sharing. So in addition to our mask over the mouth, over the eye, these are the things that we also say, because sometimes you may fall, sit down, help each other, okay, uncomfortable, take off. Now this particular app can be downloaded on your VR, on your mobile device, sorry, to be viewed in VR. We love it so much because I think it enables problem solving, creative thinking. It's actually, you can view in the gallery what people have done and walk through this mobile virtual reality environments, and better still, create your own. So this is where we are heading to now. Teachers, students as VR designers. Try VR for personalized learning. So teachers and students in VR environments and building lifelong learning skills. That's where we are headed to. All the best to all the teachers in Southeast Asia and beyond. Good luck.
And thank you very much for sharing with us the experiences of the 360 video. And I believe that our teacher can apply the 360 video for making their classes more fun. So Dr. Krisachai, we received many questions from the Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, and Myanmar. And thank you so much for the participants in YouTube, which we have about over 1,000 participants right now. And may I turn the floor to you, Dr. Krisachai, to the hard part of the Q&A session to Dr. David. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, we have, like Biyapa said, a lot of questions from the audience. Well, let's bring up the questions on the screen. One of the common questions that our audience have is on some challenges that you may have experienced in implementing VR in the classroom. Could you please tell us about the challenges you have faced earlier? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for the question. So there are several challenges. Many teachers have devices that may not be compatible. So the mobile phones have to be, I suppose, the later versions. And sometimes you buy a cheaper mobile phone which does not have, like a gyroscope in it, so it doesn't work. Okay, that's one of the challenge, the device. Okay, secondly, especially when it comes to older students, older teachers perhaps, okay, we have eyesight problem, and when we're focusing on the mobile device for too long in virtual reality, we actually may have headaches, and we may not be able to see too well after that. So this is something to consider with our younger learners as well. Do not spend too long on the virtual reality environment. Do not ask them to spend too long. Use it as a stimulus or for reinforcement for a little while, but always warn, give a warning that this actually may affect the eyesight. This may affect give you headaches and all that. And in the safety issues, which I didn't have time to explain all, there are things, I mean, some people may have epileptic fits, okay, if they are exposed, that's if you have a predisposition to it. So there are certain challenges, okay, but I think that there's still a lot of potential in using virtual reality.
Well, certainly, and that the challenge, as you mentioned, is the one that I face also on the eyesight. The other question is from Miss Josephine Feliciano from DOS, Philippines. Well, can you recommend some research that show the effectiveness of the use of virtual reality in the learning for K-12?
Okay, thank you. There are many research that has been going on. In the early years, I was looking at the research earlier on when I first started virtual reality. In the early years, you'll find that many of the research show that there's no significant difference in learning when you use virtual reality. I think it's similar for computers in the early days, even gaming. However, the potential comes when you are able to arouse feelings, emotions. So I think this has, virtual reality has a very great potential in things like evoking emotions for maybe a more sustainable living, for environmental education, for intercultural education. That's a research that I did with some of my friends. Okay, so if you have seen the reference, DeWitt, Chan, and Loban, okay, we did on intercultural communication, and we find that intercultural skills actually improve, okay, and even second language acquisition has improved. So there are many studies that have shown that there has been a little bit of improvement. Some studies show there's no improvement, but I think if you target the emotion, the attitudes that you need to develop among your students, that perhaps you will have a very strong effect there.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, I'm curious that you have the wonderful headsets to be used. I only have the Google Cardboard in my house. I haven't used a lot for a long time, but I think it's useful as well. You know, is the Google Cardboard is available? Because some people are asking whether how can we obtain some inexpensive VR equipment.
Okay, so the Google Cardboard, we actually order from China, a lot of these Google Cardboard sets, you know, so we have an app, mobile app, which we use Lazada and order. On the other hand, you can actually get the template online, and you can cut and actually make your own cardboard set. But I also like to highlight that technology advances very fast. So the device that you saw me using is the Oculus Quest. That's the latest Oculus Quest 2. I bought in 2018 a Samsung Gear, which is already outdated now. So you have to be alert, especially teachers who want to buy. I mean, you have to know which device is still current in use. Don't get the earlier devices, outdated. There's no maintenance for those devices. No, you know, you cannot get service done on it if there's a problem.
All right, thank you so much. So, well, like you mentioned, Google Cardboard can be downloaded, can be built by yourself.
Yes.
Not too much difficulty. So there's the existing availability of the inexpensive device to be used for VR. Sure. Thank you so much for a very comprehensive answer. Okay, back to you, Kun Piyapha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grisachai and Dr. David, for the wonderful presentation and the Q&A session. And for the next speaker from Singapore, but currently work in New Zealand, may I invite Associate Professor Dr. Suranka Nanayakara, Director of Augmented Human Lab, Department of Information System and Analytics, School of Computing, National University of Singapore, and Honoraris Professor from Auckland Bioengineering Institute of the University of Auckland, New Zealand. Dr. Nana Yankara has won many awards, including Young Inventor Under 35 in the Asia Pacific region by MIT Tech Review, Outstanding Young Person of Sri Lanka, and INK Fellowships in 2016. And his presentation topic is very interesting. I'm very curious about your curious, keeping Kiwi kids curious. Please welcome Dr. Nana Yankara on the virtual stage. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for that wonderful introduction, and thanks for inviting me to this SEAMEO event. So today, I want to talk about one of our projects, Project Curious, which is very relevant to the topic of this event. Before I move into more details, I want to briefly introduce the work we do in our lab. So at the Augmented Human Lab, our vision is to humanize technology. What that means is that thinking about how do we package technology into new human computer interfaces so that we can use them very seamlessly and enhance the way we work, live, and play. There are a number of projects that we have done over the years. So you are very welcome to visit my research lab, www.ahlab.org, to get more details about those projects. Right, so as I mentioned, today's focus will be on Project Curious. The main motivation for this project came from International Mathematics and Science Study Report that came out a few years ago, that actually indicated about 45% of New Zealand Year 9 students, they are not confident in doing science. And about half of the teachers felt they are less or medium confident in teaching science, especially with inquiry methods. And many schools are lacking effective science programs. So our question was, how do we keep Kiwi kids curious? Essentially, we want to foster critical thinkers so that when kids grow up, they ask questions about climate change, air quality, and well-being. We want to contribute towards creating a scientifically literate citizens who see science all around them. So let me explain this with a persona, just to give you a bit more details. So this is a typical Kiwi kid, Jack. He's 14 years old. He lives somewhere far north and goes to a rural high school. He likes school, loves sport, and plays rugby. And in his spare time, he grows vegetable in his garden, and he's trying to work out, how do I get bigger tomatoes? And he thinks maybe sunlight or maybe water is the factor that affects the size. So what does someone like Jack think about science? For him, in the primary school, science was pretty good because he got the chance to make volcanoes. But as he grew older, science became boring because it was about remembering the periodic table and writing reports. So that's a typical kid. And this is Sarah, a typical persona of a science teacher. So she's been teaching for 5 years and she has a bachelor degree in science, but decided to work on teaching. So she did her teaching diploma and now she's head of junior science at Jack's High School. She wants to bring some fun into learning science, but she has limited budget. Some of her team lacks confidence in teaching science. They struggle with time required to get through all the curriculum materials and creating engaging and exciting science lessons. So this persona of teacher and student like Jack and Sarah is our focus in Curious. In fact, we spend a lot of time talking to teachers to understand their pain points when teaching science. And these are some of the key items. So one of the biggest challenges, too much work and not enough time. and they're looking for resources to help their confidence and make the science more of doing science rather than just reading science. And the problem we were trying to solve is how do, with their limited availability, how do we deliver science in a fun and inquiry-based learning environment? So our goal was to foster a scientifically literate generation by giving every kid access to what we called the curious science experience. So let me tell you a bit more about what I mean by curious science experience. This has three main parts. So first is we built a set of sensors that help you to measure the phenomena around you, such as things like the humidity, the air quality, temperature, and this is connected to the computer through a USB cable. So it's very plug and play. And the second piece is online learning platform where the students can use this sensor data, create experiments, post their findings, and collaborate with each other. And the third piece is set of resources to support teachers. These are lesson samples so that they are aligned with the New Zealand curriculum. And when the teachers use this, they're actually fulfilling the curriculum needs within the classroom. So just a bit more details into each of the components. The sensor hardware, this is how we develop what you see on the left is the initial version, and we developed it all the way to what you see on the right side. They are very simple and low cost. And as I said, you can directly plug them into your computer through USB. Because of this direct connection, the sensor does not need to have battery, the processor, display, or any communication. And therefore the cost is cheaper and no pairing. You can simply connect and you have the sensor data. And we built 6 different types of sensors: the air quality, humidity, heart rate, the conductance, temperature, and UV light. And these are very useful phenomena, and even our smart devices, they are not able to capture all of these things. Most of the time they pull data from API, but this is like capturing the actual values in the environment in real time. And we designed them with, as you can see, specific shapes and color, so there is fun and engagement. We package them into class kit. So a class kit, as you can see on the picture, looks like a little set of drawers, and each drawer has 20 sensors from each type, and then the USB cable and the other accessories. And you can simply place them in the class. Students can take them in and out as they wish. That's the first part. The second part is the inquiry editor. So this is to provide an online platform for students to make use of this sensor data and encourage collaboration and sharing. And then the powerful thing about this platform is it runs on any computer that has a Chrome browser. We became part of Chrome development, so there's nothing to install, there's nothing to set up. You connect your sensor, you open your browser, go to the Curious, the learning platform. You can access the data and work on your interesting scientific inquiries. This is the early version of the inquiry editor. The idea is most of the online platforms or toolkits, they have 2 different parts. One part is the learning materials, all your reading, maybe a motivational story, instructions, all these things. Then the second part is the sensor system, or how do you collect the data. And usually these are in 2 different places. Sometimes we collect the data on one setup and then take them over to the other setup for analysis. What we wanted to do is to integrate these 2 things together, so the students can keep their attention focused. So this particular initial prototype was a web application where it guides the student through step-by-step worksheets, and these worksheets has the sensor data built in. So that means you don't have to open something else to find the sensor values. They are built into the worksheets. That's the initial prototype. We further developed this into something a bit more simple, something a bit more open-ended and fun. So this is more like taking few snapshots of interesting things, interesting observations, and write about them and share so other students can engage, they can ask questions, they can comment, they can try to replicate and see if they can get the same results. These are some of the interesting inquiries students have posted. So the idea is when you empower kids with the tool and they come up with all this cool stuff. So somebody was trying to figure out how smelly the dog's breath. Someone was trying to figure out if drinking coffee will increase my heart rate, so on and so forth. Here is a video of actual classroom session where kids were using the sensors, and you can see suddenly the science becomes doing rather than reading, and you can see them like moving around and trying to explore. Just trying to get my video. Yeah. So yeah, you can see the kids were trying to figure out the UV light inside the classroom and outside the classroom. It's similar light condition, but the UV is significantly different inside the classroom compared to outside the classroom because glass is filtering the UV light. And now they see it for themselves. And as I mentioned, the third piece is all these lesson examples we built. We had one of the investigators of this project, Professor Dawn Garbutt from the education faculty. She's an expert in training or developing pedagogical materials and training teachers. And with her help, we came up with lesson plans that is in line with the New Zealand science curriculum. And so teachers had the flexibility. They are not too prescriptive, they are not too open. So teachers can use them as an initial step to come up with the lessons they would like to do in the classroom. So with all these three components, we actually deployed this in New Zealand. That was sometime during 2021. I think it was around May, about a year before. And so far, this is been tried in around 40 schools across New Zealand. We deployed 4,200 sensors and we see over 1,500 student projects on the platform. And this is being used as we speak. And these are some of the comments we hear from teachers. So teachers were saying, you know, it indeed made the class very cool. There was a level for everyone to get engaged. And essentially what we see is anecdotes suggesting that there is a potential to change the way science is taught inside the classroom. And we managed to capture some feedback from teachers, and this video summarizes that.
Things that really struck me today was how quickly they sparked ideas off of one another, that they were actually thinking science. I wonder what would happen. It was amazing to hear them say, I wonder if this would happen, and to know that we can actually find out an answer for them.
Just bringing that nature of science into the children's learning, really excited about being able to use these so that they can start inquiring rather than being taught what to do.
There's lots of flexibility, lots of opportunity for the kids to do their own, come up with their own questions and do some experiments, genuine experiments, so they can actually find out something they didn't know before, which I thought was really, really cool.
The versatility that it gives you to do so many different experiments or just hands-on activities, and the students can fully see the data that they themselves are getting. They don't have to read about it or look at it from another scientist's point of view. They can actually be, oh yeah, no, I have my own data that I myself collected that.
Most of the time students say, okay, what's the relevance? How can I make it relevant? This is a very good way to link the environment to the research. So link science to the environment. It's a very easy way to make that connection.
We need thermoregulation, so we could use the heart rate sensors and the temperature sensors to measure changes in those things before and after doing exercise.
The light sensor modeling the seasons and how that changes, so they can grasp, oh, this is why we get the seasons.
We'll be using it at looking stuff around our school environment, but also going out and doing some extreme health.
Built into contexts like pollution and sustainability, where we're using it to go and explore, levels of different chemicals.
Basically, any of the sensors can be used across any year level. You can find any way to make any of the sensors applicable, I think.
So I guess this kind of clearly showcased the value this has added to teachers for teaching science in a more engaging way in the classroom. So that was the main piece, but our sensors are not restricted to just science. There are many other opportunities and we were exploring them. For example, with the sensors, we can teach programming for young kids, again, in a much more engaging way. So for this, we built another platform called Curious Play, which is an extension to Scratch, which is a very popular block-based programming language. So the block-based programming environment, they're shown to be effective and popular among the kids. But the problem is most of the time the input for those block-based environment is limited to keyboard and mouse. So what we wanted to do is to allow these block-based programming programs to respond to changes in the physical environment, because our sensors can sense those. So our Scratch extension create these extra blocks. So you can simply say, for example, you can build a bat that can fly. Instead of pressing the mouse keys, you can connect your humidity sensor, you can blow into the sensor, and that will make the bat fly. So basically, again, similar to the previous project, we built the code base, the extension, and some guidelines. And we wanted to understand what's the impact of this adding real-time sensor values to block-based programming. And there were two things we were hoping. First, we thought students will be more motivated to write programs. Second thing, because of this data, we thought students will explore wide variety of blocks and programs. And we ran some sessions and we have some results. For example, here you can see on the left, that's when kids were using Scratch, our version with the sensors. You can see they use variety of different blocks, whereas on the right you see when they were using without the sensors. So the type of blocks were limited. That's the first thing. Second thing is about motivation. You can see the different statements regarding motivation and fun. The first two and last three are about positive side. You can see they are rated high. The middle two are the negative side. I thought they are boring, so they thought no, they're not boring. So you can see clearly the having real-time sensor value made the Scratch programs more motivating and enjoyable, which is also reflected through some of the comments. You can see, they are really cool. They were fun to use, and most importantly, the kids could relate to the real world. As I mentioned, I blow into this humidity sensor, my character goes up. Or maybe I wanted to use the light sensor and I create this character, the 2 version, the sleeping version, awake version. I close the sensor, that's night, the character goes to sleep. I uncover the sensor, now it's daytime, the character wakes up. So this just shows the power of, again, having real-time sensor value in a very easy plug and play way that increase the motivation and engagement. Yeah, so that's mostly a summary of what we have done in the Curious project. We were lucky enough to get a few awards and recognition from various initiatives. But most importantly, this is not just my work. We had an amazing, talented, multidisciplinary team. And we also set up this as a not-for-profit organization in New Zealand with the hope of supporting all intermediate level students, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Yeah, so with that, I open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive and interesting presentation. Many of our participants are curious how they could buy and get the kit. I think I got it a lot from the YouTube chat box and also in the Q&A form. And so, Dr. Krisashaika, may I invite you for the Q&A session?
Certainly, thank you, Kun Piyapha. Just like Kun Piyapha said, a lot of interest and curious kit. But well, let's bring up the presentation for the questions so we can see the issue together.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the one of the questions that we have received. Well, since this is implemented in New Zealand, which might be in different environment, different culture from the Southeast Asian students, so do you think that there will be any differences in the design of Curious to be used in the student in different cultures?
Right. So that's a very good question. What I think is the foundational elements that we build the Curious experience upon, which is science is empirical. We use data to find answers. Science is tentative. Our understanding gets updated with the evidences. Science is social. Scientists work together. Science is creative. Scientists find creative ways to share their ideas. That will be quite remain constant regardless of where we put this, because the scientific inquiry, that process is quite universal. But what will be different, or what we should change, is the kind of activities or the examples that is more related to that particular localization or the culture, because by doing so, the students will be able to relate a lot more to the experience they're doing. So an example that we use in New Zealand may not be the right example to be used in Philippines or in Vietnam. So I think the framework will remain the same. The teaching examples will be more, I think we should develop them together with local experts so that the content is locally relevant and culturally appropriate. But the framework will remain the same because science is science.
Well, certainly localization is the key to adapt this to the local community. Well, another question. We got a lot of interest from the audience, and we would like to know what's next on this project. Will you expand this project to Southeast Asia, or whether how can our teacher purchase the Curious equipment to use in their own countries?
So as I mentioned, we set this up as a organization to sustain beyond the university project. Two of my colleagues, Professor Dawn Garbett and Sonia, they are continuing with this, and what they do now is going to schools and deploying this and also training the teachers. There is plan to expand to other places. I guess it's a two-way conversation. We are looking at receiving more support to further develop the platform. At the same time, they'll be completely open if there's an invitation to try and adapt Curious into a particular country, particular localization. They'll be happy to do that, the work I mentioned, which is about how do we then create appropriate content and do sort of training and development and adaptation. Yeah, so if there's anyone keen to do so, the best would be to send me an email, which is suranga@ahlab.org, and then I can put you in touch with the right people. If there's someone interested in trying the various things we have and even DIY their own Curious sensor, I suggest them go to education.curious.com. There you will find links to these few different tools and some information about how to reach to us and how can they get Curious sensors.
All right, so there are a lot of opportunity to collaborate with the Curious project from across Southeast Asia and also across the world as well. So just visit education.curious.com or .com. Okay, okay, so anyone who has interest can get in touch with Professor Suranga, and then we can do some collaborations to expand the project together. Thank you so much. That was wonderful about Curious. Okay, back to you, Kun Piyapan.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation again.
Thank you very much for the presentation and interesting Q&A session. And in addition, what Dr. Krichasai just mentioned and Dr. Suranga just mentioned about the web address of the Curious. So you can drop your name in the Q&A form, and you just click on the Dr. Suranga session in the Q&A form and just say that you are interested to be part of his research, right? So maybe it's easier for you that you can express your interest to join this research program. All right, okay. And the last speaker of today is Dr. Tiao Yong Chua, Senior Lecturer from the Assistant Head and the BSc Education Program Leader from the National Science and Science Education Department from the National Institute of Education Singapore. As part of the pedagogical innovation, Dr. Tiao was awarded an Incentivizing ICT Use Innovation Grant. With his expertise in augmented reality technologies, his presentation topic is using augmented reality strategies to engage students in the learning of chemistry. And again, if you really want to send a question or reflection to Dr. Tiao, please scan QR code or click at the Q&A form link with our team already posted in the chat box. Please welcome Dr. Tiao on the virtual stage. Dr. Tiao, the floor is yours.
All right, very good morning to all. Thank you for the kind introduction. Before I proceed with my presentation, I would like to thank the organizer and all the sponsors for providing me with this platform to share my AR journey with the teaching fraternity in Southeast Asia and beyond. Right. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Okay, so my focus is more on the development of an AR applications to be used in the learning of organic chemistry in one of my year 1 fundamental course, right? So this is the flow of my presentation. Okay, I will give you a brief introduction of what is augmented reality, the rationale for the development of AR application for the course, a simple demonstration of the AR app, and also some benefits of AR on education. Okay, so let's start. What is augmented reality? You probably heard about the game Pokemon Go that was very popular in the year 2016 and up to this day. So basically, Pokemon Go game is a very good example of AR in action, whereby digital content is superimposed over a real-world environment. So during the game, the user can view the surrounding using the app and also the camera smartphone, and in doing so, they are able to capture the digital content in the form of Pokemon character as part of the game. So similar to the game, my AR app also uses digital content, but in this case, instead of Pokemon character, we are using 3D models to enhance the student learning environment. Okay, so the key thing is the AR uses digital content that is superimposed over a real-world environment. So what examples of digital overlays that can be used? It can include images, digital information, or 3D models. You can also add real-time directions and also to insert labels onto the AR app. And the last example is the more common, whereby the user can alter their appearance using filters on popular apps such as Instagram, Snapchat, and camera functions. So this is a bit dry. I've been teaching organic chem in the degree program. So it basically involves the study of the structural properties and reactions of organic compounds. Okay, in the year 1 organic course, the students are exposed to many functional groups, and it's important for them to develop skills to draw, interpret, and translate between the 2D and 3D representations so that they can be more successful in integrating multiple complex concepts as they progress to the higher level of learning. So I think it's important, as shown in this slide, the propane molecule is shown in various representations. So it's very important for them to be able to translate between these representations so that they understand the molecular structure which relates to the properties and reactions. So the translation between 2D and 3D representation is covered under the topic of isomerism, specifically stereochem. So stereochem involves the study of the relative spatial arrangement. Basically, is how the atoms are connected to each other in the 3D environment. So why is it important? Because the 3D structure will determine the physical properties, whether be it the melting point or the boiling point. It also responsible for the chemical properties, whether it will function as an acid or a base. And the last one is the most important. It will influence how the molecule tastes and how it functions as a drug. That means how the organic molecule interact with the 3D environment of the receptor site. It plays a very critical role in drug action in this context. So throughout my years of teaching, notice that one of the challenges faced by the students is in the visualizing the 3D representation of the molecules when they are given the 2D representation in a textbook or on the student notes. So this ability to visualize the molecule requires them to have some form of visual spatial skills. And learning this content is made more challenging if a particular student lacks that visual spatial abilities. So in this case, the students will find that the route learning approach is difficult and unengaging. Eventually, some of them will lose the interest to learn, and they'll find the difficulty in tackling questions during assessment. So I conducted a short survey to collate some of the response on the difficulties that they might experience when they first learn the topic of stereochem. Examples are shown here. Visualization of the 3D models was very difficult. Visualizing the wedge and dash representation was quite a challenge for 3D representation. Hard to visualize and draw boat and chair conformers for cyclohexane. The survey also required them to share their coping strategies. That is how they managed to learn this topic. So examples are shown here. Memorize the structure without fully understanding. Using multiple pens to show the bonds and connectivity to show the 3D environment. Simply accepting what the instructor taught and memorizing the correct 3D structures or how to draw them in 2D for exams. I think this is the comments that we as educators would not like to receive. Okay, so traditionally, concrete ball and stick sets and computer 3D modeling have been used to mitigate the students' difficulty in visualization. However, the traditional methods have limitations, which I'm going to discuss in a while. Physical models, they are only useful for students who are first learning the topic and they are learning to translate between 2D and 3D diagrams. So initially, when they are exposed to the stereochemistry topic, they are only required to construct simple molecule, and it's easier for them to manipulate the molecule. As they progress throughout the course, the molecule become more complex, and so it might not be that effective to manipulate the molecule, and also it's time consuming because you need to construct the models, and if class time is limited, this might be an issue. Computer 3D modeling, interaction with these models is mediated by a computer interface, such as the mouse, rather than being direct, and in some cases require expensive hardware and software to run. In some instances, you need a dedicated room with all the laptops pre-installed with the stock software in order to conduct the class. So this might be costly and impractical for some of the institutions. And computer 3D models lack specific haptic feedback. Later in the demo, you will see that the AR app is equipped with haptic feedback, whereby if the molecule is not stable, it will send a vibration to the user. Okay, so to overcome some of the limitations discussed in the previous two slides, our team have come up with AR simulations designed to mitigate the visualization effect and also to create experiences on mobile devices. They are not possible on physical models and on 3D modeling. So in an AR environment, the students will have the ability to interact and rotate the bonds of the molecules to make their learning fun and exciting. I strongly believe that this type of student engagement will help them to learn better and to retain their learning more effective. Okay, this is very dry. I'll just highlight that the two concepts that I'm going to show in demonstration will be the conformation of acyclic alkanes and the ring flipping of cyclohexane. Okay, requirements for AR in education. First, you need a stable internet connection. Student must come with a smartphone with the AR app pre-installed on the mobile device, textbook or student notes for them to activate the digital overlay as shown in the representation here. Okay, a good thing and highlight of my app is that the students can easily activate the digital overlay using the student notes or even on the computer PDF version. They don't need to purchase the textbook in order to use this app. This makes it simple and also more cost-effective for the student. Okay, so these are the two concepts. Just briefly go through. They have difficulty in the conversion between the staggered and the eclipse, and also to relate to the energy diagram of the respective conformers, and also the chair flipping process whereby one chair flip to the other chair and how the bonds interconvert. So on student notes and textbook, it's very difficult to visualize how the bonds interconvert upon ring flipping, but I will show you using the app how these are made possible. Okay, I will stop share here and I will prepare the phone app for the demo. Give me some time. I stop share here first. All right. Okay, so this is the app that the student will download onto their smartphone. So once they click, it will ask the student to find a target. So this is a representation slide I'm going to activate. So they just need to put the phone on top of the slide. And once they click the mobile device, they don't have to put the phone near to the slide anymore. They can just pick it up and the molecule will follow wherever they go. All right. So this is an example of how you can interconvert between the staggered and the eclipse conformation. So if they drag outside, which I'm doing now, okay, they can see how does ethane exist in a 3D environment. Okay, once they're ready to interconvert, they just need to rotate the single bond. Okay, and then let me show you. Okay, so staggered, you rotate to the eclipse, and then you rotate to the staggered. So every 60 degrees will change the conformers from the staggered and the eclipse. Okay, then on the lecture notes, it will show that the staggered is the more stable conformers because the hydrogen atoms are placed furthest apart from each other compared to the eclipse where the hydrogen atoms are close to each other. All right, so let me show you the next slide. Okay, same thing, they will see this homepage, search for a slide on the topic of conformation to scan. So this is a very important part of the app. Okay, I forgot to mention the black color ball refers to carbon, the white color ball refers to hydrogen atoms. So rotate the molecule and observe the energy difference between the staggered and eclipse conformations. So this is not possible on textbook or on student notes. It's not possible to rotate the bond and relate to the energy graph, which is on the right-hand side of the app. Okay, it's not possible. On 2D, they can on students and textbook, they can only see this graph and the molecule. But using this app, they can rotate the bond and they can see how the energy change from the eclipse to a staggered, and the staggered will go up to the higher energy level, the less stable eclipse, and they can rotate further to show how the energy correlates to the rotation of single bond. So they can see that the eclipse is the one that is less stable and higher energy. So I think this is one of the highlight of my app, which allows the correlation between the energy diagram and the rotation of the single bond. Okay, once they are familiar with the simple molecule, in this case ethane, they can progress to the more complicated molecule, which is the butane molecule. Let me just scan the slides. Click on the molecule. Okay. So in the case of the butane molecule, it's more complicated because there, instead of the 2 hydrogen atoms, now you have 2 methyl group on each end, one here and one here. So now they can view that the butane molecule as this type of structure, and they can also rotate the bond to show the different conformers, which I'm not going to go into detail, okay, because there are 2 forms of staggered here. So this is the least stable conformers, whereby the 2 methyl group are in close proximity. Actually, the app will trigger a haptic feedback for you to tell them that there's repulsion between the 2 methyl group. Okay. All right. So with this complete demonstration on the rotation of acyclic alkane, and the next one, which is quite challenging for students, is to flip the cyclohexane ring. All right. Observe the cyclohexane molecule. Press start animation on the right when you're ready for the ring flip animation. So at this stage, they will know that the cyclohexane does not exist as a flat molecule. Rather, cyclohexane exists as a check conformer as shown in the 3D model. So before they start to do the ring flip, okay, they can move around and look at how the actual cyclohexane exists in the real scenario. All right. So once they start, once they're ready to do the ring flip, they can click on the start animation. So carry out the ring flip and observe the interconversion of the acyl and equatorial hydrogen atoms. Okay, to make it simple, you just look at the blue colored hydrogen atom and the white color. So upon ring flip, they will interconvert. So let me show the highlighted carbon. I just need to shift up. Okay, so you can see that initially the blue atoms were perpendicular to the plane of the ring. Upon ring flipping, it will be along the plane of the ring. So this is the one thing that students are not able to observe, the interchangeability of the equatorial and the acyl atom upon ring flipping. By using this app, they can easily see how the hydrogen atom, and this is the check group conformation, which is the least stable. And the last one, you can flip back to the original check conformation. So this is the app in the ball and stick format. However, in exam and test, they are supposed to represent the answer in a line diagram. So I also come up with an app AR on the line diagram, which I'm going to show in a while. So same thing. Instead of using the ball and stick, this is the blue acyl bond. Upon ring flipping, it will change to the equatorial bond. So these are examples of how the conformers of cyclohexane can be changed by doing a simple manipulation of the 2 carbon atoms at the end. All right, so with this, I've come to the end of the demonstration. Let me just stop. Okay. Now, let me go back to my demonstration, my slides. Okay, so these are the representative slides that are given to the students. So students can activate the digital overlay simply by placing the mobile device on top of the slides. Okay, so the key thing about the app is that it will help the student to visualize during the interconversion between the staggered and eclipse conformers, and also to relate the energy graph to the rotation of single bond, and last but not least, how the chair conformation can interconvert between the chair conformer A and chair conformer B, and how the equatorial and axial bonds can interconvert upon ring flipping. So the app will allow the student to visualize the actual changes during the process. All right, and now I'll come to the next slide, which is on the benefits of AR in education. Okay, it will facilitate a seamless transfer of information since the app is built upon the mobile device. It can be used as a learning companion, augmenting the lecture notes and tutorials. So students can actually observe, predict, and interpret as they transit between the student notes and also the AR app. Learning is no longer confined in a classroom setting since they have the power to learn on the go and anytime they want. Okay, learning will be more engaging and fun since you have the ability to interact with the molecule in 3D environment. Okay, learning is based on a practical approach instead of just theory or rote learning. This will enable the students to appreciate the important concept more. Okay, immediate engagement, this is important since the attention span of students nowadays are limited and short. Exploration and hands-on approach help with the learning and with knowledge retention. Okay, I've used this AR app in synergy with my lecture portal. In most instances, the students were very excited when they see the 3D molecule pop up from the lecture notes, and they were totally engaged with interacting with the molecules based on the lecture notes and the instruction. And based on the performance on the tests and tutorials, I can see that this app would help them in solving questions that are related to stereochemistry. Okay, some of the comments given by the student at the end of session, it will help in the visualization of structure, which can be quite challenging, especially the chair and board conformation. It helps me to visualize the rotation of bonds. It helps me to visualize models that we can only use imagination to visualize in the past. Organic chemistry requires students to visualize molecule, and this will definitely help students do so. Other examples, interactive aids in visualization and fun. The student part of assigning R and S, fun, interactive, 3D visualization. For the rotation of single bonds, I like how the rotation corresponded to the energy changes in the graph. Okay, in terms of acknowledgement, I would like to thank the NIE, Nanyang Technological University, for the generous funding. My collaborator, Ms. Melissa Yam, senior learning designer in the learning department. She was responsible for the pedagogy aspect in implementing and the interface of the app. And my two very hardworking AR developers who work at night and start from scratch to come up with the computer program and the interface of the app, Mr. Yo Zi Yuan and Mr. Go Zhe An. And last but not least, I would like to end the presentation with this quote for students that aspire to be teachers or the current teachers. More than transmitting knowledge, teaching is to help students discover their purpose and potential. It allows them to develop passion for the subject and learn to not be afraid of trying something different. Okay, with this, I've come to my end of presentation. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much for the very interesting presentation to our audience. And from the question and answer, we have received many educators express interest that they want to collaborate and learn more from you. So I think that I can send that email address to you directly, right, for the further information that they may require.
Okay.
So for this part, Dr. Monka, may I turn the floor to you for the Q&A session?
Certainly. Thank you, Kun Piyapha. Well, there are a lot of interest from the audience, and in summary, what I would say is the the comment is, wow. They're very impressed of the way that you are using the VR and the AR application in the chemistry. Well, one of the questions that come up often it's, well, about how to use AR in other science subject or even algebra. Do you have any recommendation in terms of the strategy of using AR app in other field?
Okay, I think the key thing is AR app, you need to identify the topics that will enhance the visualization and learning environment of students. So for physics, what I can suggest is some of the force of motion and the Newton law, where you use the vector to calculate the force. I mean, this is one way where the students can actually interact with the various load. I'm a chemistry trained, so in terms of physics, so this is one way where they can use the vector aspect to incorporate into the AR app. And for biology, okay, I think the one of the important thing is functions of the cell organelles, so they can actually use the cell structure and allow the student to interact with the functions of the mitochondria, functions of Golgi bodies, and also even if they are more challenging, you can actually come up with ecology as a trail for them to scan the mobile phone at the environment and look at all the animals around the environment. So this is where ecology can play a part. So I think you need to identify the topics, and then you need to write the AR app.
All right, that's wonderful. Well, a lot of our participants are from teachers from other countries. They are interested in your application and the development of the apps that you are using, and they want to, well, collaborate with you further. Well, how can they do that? Can you give us some?
I think you can drop me an email. And I think for even though what I presented, my app is developed based on the courses in the university level, but the idea behind the concept can be adapted to teaching at secondary school or high school level. For example, some of the courses in chemical bonding or even in the macromolecules. I think these are some of the possible topics that can be developed into an AR app for students to enhance their learning process. So you can ask them to drop me an email, and from there we can collaborate if there's potential in that. Yeah, I welcome any collaboration with all the educators in the Southeast Asia and beyond.
That's wonderful. I think we can expand all the this project further, helping connecting each other.
Thank you very much.
Develop this further. All right. Thank you so much for a very comprehensive answer.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Well, all the presentation today are really amazing. Although I have heard a lot about artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, but the presentation today made me realize the benefit and the capability very clearly, and I'm certain that our participants would feel the same way and benefit a great deal from the knowledge provided today. On behalf of all participants today, I would like to thank all our speakers, Professor Richard Green from University of Canterbury, Associate Professor Dr. Dorothy David from University Malaya in Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Suranga Nanayankara from National University of Singapore and the University of Auckland, New Zealand, and Dr. Teo Yang Shao from National Institute of Education, Singapore. Thank you to you all for wonderful knowledge sharing in this second SEAMEO New Zealand Masterclass on digital revolution for education. We would love to have you all join us in the future event as well. Thank you so much. Back to you, Kun Piyapha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krisachai and all the speakers. And before I move to the next session, which is about the other announcement, how to get the e-certificate of participation, I would like to invite our participants who really want to work with the speakers, like, who want to share the knowledge with our expert and also want to collaborate with our speaker who are in today's session. Please, maybe you can drop in your name again in the Q&A form that we already post on the top of the chat box. And you just identify the speaker that you want to work with, or you want to gain more information, you are interested in the application or whatever, in the message box, so that we can forward the information from you to the speaker directly, including your email address. All right, okay. So we are looking forward to seeing more interest from our participants to our experts. And for the next part, I would like to give the announcement about the upcoming events of the SEAMEO Secretariat. Okay, next. We would like to invite the teachers and school leaders and educators to participate in the launching and course orientation of the SEAMEO University of Tsukuba, Japan Teacher e-Training Series. This program is supported by the Ministry of Education of Japan, and the course is provided for free. We have 3 online courses coming on 28 May, but the orientation will be on the 26th May. So 3 courses are Disaster Prevention and Education in Asia, Constructivism in Education, and the last one, Mathematics Education. If you are interested in these 3 courses, you can come to join us in the orientation day, which is on the 26th May, and then you can decide which course you want to enroll for. And for the next program, we also would like to invite you to join the SEAMEO Australian EduLink webinar on e-portfolio in education. This program is collaborated with the University of Queensland in Australia and with the Australian government. And if you're really interested to learn about how e-portfolios can improve the teaching and learning and also professional development, please enroll to the course. The course will be run on 2nd of June 2022 in the afternoon at 3:30 to 5 p.m. Bangkok time. And the next program, please. And we also would like to welcome school, university, TVET colleges, kindergarten, and non-formal education to be part of our network of learning and sharing. So you can scan the QR code and then apply to be our SEAMEO school network. And the next page. The last part is please stay tuned with the SEAMEO activities and e-news by applying to be receiving the news and information from us, including the scholarships, awards, competitions, teacher development programs, and also the webinar. You can scan the QR code over there. And then the last most popular question from our audience today, how to get e-certificate of participation. Right, you see the link that our IT team will post the link for the certificate validation form on the top of the chat box and also in the description box, or you can scan the QR code here. And the deadline for fill up the form is Wednesday, 25 May at midnight. Please ensure the spelling of your name, country, and email address because the certificate will be sent out by our system. And please bear with us that we will need to take time for about 1 month for processing the certificate because we have other events at the same time as well. So please enter the information into the link and or scan QR code, the one that we just showed to you. Right, I think that we are now reaching to the end of the webinar. On the behalf of the SEAMEO Secretariat, we would like to express our appreciation again to the distinguished speakers, our partner, Education New Zealand, University of Canterbury, University of Auckland, University of National University of Singapore, University of Malaya of Malaysia, National Institute of Education of Singapore, and all participants in YouTube Live today. And thank you very much, and see you again in the next event on 26 May. Bye-bye and thank you. Have a good day.
It's time to open our eyes to a bright and promising future. We'll rise to the call of the times and create a stronger tomorrow. Let's start to make a difference, teaching everyone to learn through science, health, and technology. We will share our expertise by promoting knowledge and policies. We can build a better world. Let us take a stand for We'll achieve our goals through partnership, creating opportunities. By working hand in hand, we can accomplish all our dreams.